This time we journey deep into the mysteries of ancient Egypt. For thousands of years, Great Pyramid of Giza has stood in the desert, silent and full of secrets. How could people, without modern machines, build a monument taller than any structure on Earth for over 3,000 years? Today, we uncover the real story behind the building of the Great Pyramid. The year is 2560 BC. The scorching sun beats down on the desert sands as hundreds of workers, their bodies silhouetted against the blazing sky, pull massive stones on sledges towards the towering pyramid. Above them, the night sky is filled with stars, guiding their every move. Each stone monolith is perfectly placed, precisely cut, and meticulously polished. The pyramid grows taller, and the workers grow weary. But they have no choice but to continue. For this is no ordinary construction project. This is a tomb, a final resting place for a pharaoh who will soon be entombed here. The work is dangerous, and the pay is low, but someone has to do it. So they push on, driven by the promise of a glorious afterlife. As the final stone is lifted into place, the workers stand back to admire their handiwork. They may never know the true scale of their accomplishment, but that doesn't make it any less impressive. Because this is not just a pyramid. This is the Great Pyramid of Giza. A T-frame grabs a limestone block from the bed of the river and swings it towards the shore where a team of workers awaits. The block thuds onto the waiting sledges and is ready for transport. This is a quarry scene not far from the Great Pyramid of Giza. Workers are busy cutting limestone blocks, which they will use to build another pyramid. But these blocks are small compared to those used for the largest and oldest pyramid of them all, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, or Cheops. Some blocks used in the construction of the Great Pyramid are made of granite, a very hard igneous rock that cannot be quarried with the tools available at the time. And this granite comes from Aswan, about 800 kilometers away. So these blocks had to be transported on big boats sailing up the Nile River. It took 3 months just to get enough granite blocks for the king's chamber. The room inside the pyramid where the sarcophagus of Pharaoh Khufu was placed. And we know that these boats existed because we have found depictions of them in murals painted by the ancient Egyptians themselves. One such mural shows us how these teams of workers pulled their blocks on wooden sledges along the ground. In front of them, another group of workers plows the sand with a wooden harrow, sprinkling sand and water to make a sort of water slide that reduces friction and allows the sledges to glide more easily. But even with this technique, moving these heavy blocks required a lot of manpower. A single block could weigh several tons. So a team of 40 men would pull together on a rope attached to each sledge. They pull with all their might and heave the block over a small rise in the sand. Once it reaches the top, it keeps sliding forward until it hits something solid, at which point they stop it with a thick wooden stake hammered into the ground. But there is still one final effort needed before they can place the block in position. Now they need to lift it higher. For this, they use a lever system, probably similar to a modern-day crane, which they then use to lift the block to its final position. We can see that these workers are not slaves, but look healthy and strong, wearing loincloths and sun protection on their heads. They are depicted as real men, friends, almost like a sports team. Many of these teams had names like the Friends of Khufu or the Friends of the Pyramid. In fact, we know that some of the workers who built the pyramids lived in a town not far from the construction site. Over time, archaeologists have uncovered dozens of houses with nice gardens, workshops, kitchens, bathrooms, and even prostitution houses. The workers had come from all over Egypt, and probably also Nubia, and lived together in harmony, sharing their food and customs. Each team would have had about 40 men. That was apparently the perfect number for their system to work efficiently. Their foremen and engineers directed the work with military discipline, giving orders in a loud voice, while the work continued day and night without any time to rest. Every worker had his task and had to fulfill it correctly. There was no room for mistakes. They worked like clockwork to raise the huge blocks into place. It required great skill and precision. To begin, a layer of stones was laid flat, and then a second layer was raised on top of that, forming a kind of staircase. The next layer would then be laid across the joints of the stones below, and the process would be repeated until the desired height was reached. The workers didn't just pile up the stones haphazardly. They aligned the pyramid perfectly with the cardinal directions and even with the stars in the sky. They did this using ropes, water levels, and astronomy. Each of the three sides of the pyramid originally faced one of the three cardinal directions: north, south, and east. Moreover, the star of the circumpolar constellation of the Big Dipper probably served as a marker for true north. The pyramid was so well aligned that for centuries it remained the tallest human-made structure in the world. Only in 1311 did the Lincoln Cathedral in England overtake it. We don't know exactly how long it took to build the Great Pyramid, but recent studies suggest that it took about 20 to 25 years, which means that construction began around 2560 BC and ended around 2530 BC. Most of the work was done during the Nile flood season, which lasted from June to October, when the soil turned to mud, making farming impossible. During those 4 months, the entire country worked on the project. Not only the slaves, but also the free Egyptians. It is estimated that between 20 and 25,000 people participated in building the Great Pyramid. Working in shifts of 40 men per team, there are many other interesting details about the pyramid that we do not have time to go into here, such as the fact that the ancient Egyptians built another, much smaller pyramid next to it, which they used as a satellite pyramid for aligning the Great Pyramid. You can learn all about that and more in our full video on the Giza Plateau. In fact, the Giza Plateau has much more to offer than just the pyramids. We therefore recommend that you visit our channel to find out more. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. Now let us take a closer look at how the Egyptians managed to move the giant stones to the top of the pyramid. To do this, they built a ramp. But what kind of ramp? How did they manage to make it so steep that it reached the top of the pyramid? Researchers have put forward 3 possible ramp theories. The first is a long, straight ramp that extended from the ground to the top of the pyramid. This ramp would have been very long, but also not too steep, which would have made it easier to drag the blocks up. However, this ramp would have required a lot of material and would have taken up a lot of space. The second theory is a spiral ramp that wound around the pyramid. This ramp would have been shorter than the first, but also steeper. The advantage of this ramp is that it would have required less material and would have taken up less space. However, it would have been more expensive to build because it would have had to be supported by pillars. The third possibility is an internal ramp that started at the bottom of the pit and went up through the middle of the pyramid. This ramp would have been the shortest of the 3, but also the steepest. However, it would have required the construction of a very stable structure and may not have been suitable for all types of stone. So which theory is correct? Well, in reality, we don't know for sure. It's possible that the Egyptians used a combination of all 3 methods, or that they used a different method altogether. Unfortunately, the only way to know for sure would be to dig up the pyramid and check, which is obviously not possible. What is certain is that the Egyptians used ramps, sledges, water, and teamwork to build the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid was not built by slaves, by thousands of skilled workers who used simple but brilliant techniques to build the largest and most impressive structure of the ancient world. The next time you look up at the stars in the night sky, remember that they were also watching the same stars as the ancient builders of the pyramids, and that their knowledge of the cosmos helped them to align the pyramids perfectly with the cardinal directions and the stars. The next time you walk along a river, remember that it was along rivers like these that the Egyptians transported their huge blocks of granite. And the next time you see a team of athletes working together to achieve a common goal, remember that it was teams of workers like these that built the pyramids. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos.